Hello friends, Adam here with FED. Today we're going to be talking about unit types from Fire, Emblem, and Gauge, and how to best utilize them. I'm not talking about classes, but I'm talking about the more specific typings like Covert, Backup, and the like. So if you want to figure out how to use those effectively, stick around. However, I am going to be looking at Chapter 5 today for this guide, so if you don't want to be spoiled on anything gameplay related in Chapter 5, now might be the time to click away. Otherwise, please stick around. We're not going to be spoiling story or anything like that. Just gameplay stuff. So let's get into it. So we have, honestly, when it comes down to it, there isn't that many unit types. There's Dragon, Cavalier, Key Adept, or I should say Cavalry, not Cavalier. Key Adept, Mystical, Covert, Flying, Armored, and Backup. They all have very unique and distinct jobs, aside from maybe Cavalry. Cavalry is probably the most milquetoast of the group. But we'll talk about all of these in depth in this map, shall we? Let us begin. So this is the most basic things you need to know about unit typing. And this is before we even talk about emblem rings, which we will do that as well. So, first we have Alir, aka the Dragon people. Dragon typing has nothing special going from them in battle, aside from the way they interact with emblems, and that's something that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So, on their own, Dragon typing isn't very special. Same can be said for Cavalry. Their whole shtick is that they get extra movement, but that extra movement is about all they do get. They don't get Canto like they have in previous games, meaning they don't get to move after acting at base. They need a ring to do that or a skill to do that. They are just your basic units, except they have like one extra space to move over your other characters. Flyers, much like Cavalry, have a little extra movement, but they can also move over impassable spaces and can't be slowed down by terrain. They can move through pillars and bushes and trees and over water and things like that without being slowed down, which is a very powerful effect. It makes them very good. So if you ever need to get to a place that's like covered in terrain or something, get there quickly, they are the people to use. Flyers are very powerful. Armored Knights, like we have Louis here who's an Armored Knight, but I'm going to demonstrate what they do with this guy. Armored Knights have a very, very powerful ability about them. So normally here, since Bougeron has the weapon advantage with axe over lances, it would break them, break this guy. But as we can see here, didn't get broken. Guy is not broken. He is still ready to fight. Armor Knights cannot be broken. They can still break things, but they can't be broken. So that makes them incredibly useful. So I can just set Louis right here, and he would just sit here and tank and not get broken by like this guy, right? Which is a very powerful effect and something to keep in mind. So you don't need to really, they're your best option for tanking, because obviously high defense, but also not getting broken is very good. Covert is actually really interesting. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see that everyone has an avoid stat, right? This stat determines the odds of evading an attack. And essentially, to find out how much of a chance you're going to have of avoiding something, you look at the enemy you're going to fight you or attack you, take their hit value, and you subtract it then you subtract that by your avoid value. So if you look at Etier here, she only has 18 avoid to this guy's 113 hit. So he's going to have 95 hit. That's a lot. Like you're most likely not going to dodge that. But hey, we can use this pillar here that gives plus 30 avoid. If you look up in the top left corner, plus 30 avoid. But if she moves onto the pillar as a covert, she gets plus 60 avoid. So coverts get double avoid bonus. Double avoid bonus from terrain like pillars, forest, and the like. And fortresses, which is incredibly potent. Taking that guy's hit rate from 95 all the way down to 35. Just by going into this pillar. Which is very, very good. Less useful on archers, but more useful on thieves. Very good effect. Now, Key Adepts are actually pretty interesting with their ability to use what's called Chain Guard. If you use Chain Guard, it mitigates any damage that a character would have taken on their first attack, as long as they're adjacent to the Chain Guarder. So we have this archer who's going to attack us. Attack Bougeron here. So we're going to Chain Guard with Fram and just see what happens here on enemy phase. So instead of Bougeron taking any damage, Fram instead steps in and takes, I think it's 20% of her max HP as damage. I think it's 20% rounded down, I believe. Either way, it's a very powerful effect. The downside being it can only be used when at full health. So it really only mitigates one attack entirely, but that one attack can make the difference overall. It's a very, very powerful thing to keep in mind. Next, we have mystical units.
My will is firm.
Mystical units are your magic users, generally, or always, basically. And they really don't have a whole lot of special stuff going on for them that outside of what magic does on its own, which is it ignores the avoid bonus from terrain, making it easy to hit enemies who have like a bazillion avoid. That's how you're going to take care of covert enemies who are standing in pillars or fortress or trees. You need to have a mystic unit go take them down with magic, which is pretty cool. Finally, we have backup. Backup is a really cool thing you can do here. Their whole shtick is chain attacks. So if you were to line up, you now have Bougeron in range of this guy with a hand axe, right? So he would be able to attack him. If you move in Alir to attack here, we see that chain attack is the first attack that's going to happen. And if you notice, that chain attack does about 10% of the enemy's max health as damage. So Bougeron, regardless of his stats, regardless of anything, he's going to deal 10% of that enemy's max HP with 80% hit. There's skills and stuff that affect hit rates and what else, but look at that. He does a chain attack, and then we get to attack. And you saw on the first attack, he only did 1 damage. There, he did 3. So it does raise your damage regardless of your stats, which is very, very good. So yeah, we have a good basis of understanding, I think, for what we're looking at here as far as units go. But let's go look at how emblem rings, at least the ones we have so far, interact with unit typing. All right, let's take a look at emblem rings now. Let's take a look at Marth for an example. You can always press X on the screen, by the way, if you didn't know. You press X to see any information about anything you want. Just kind of scroll around. And we see that these rings all give some sort of skills, right, or abilities on the right-hand side of their information. Perceptive, break, defense, good stuff. But the ones we want to focus on are the ones that say type bonus. So the type bonus is in direct reference to the unit typing that we've been talking about. So Alir's whole thing is because they're dragon. The dragon always has some sort of type bonus with all the skills that emblem rings have. So, for instance, here we have Alir, who with Divine Speed just acts as normal, with unit performs an extra attack at 50% damage in combat. But because Alir is a dragon, the unit also recovers HP equal to the damage dealt by that extra attack. And then for Lodestar Rush, it's normal, except for a dragon gets +2 attack. Now, not every single unit type, but many unit types are going to have many different types of bonuses with different ranks. So it's always worth checking all of them and just like seeing what they do. Sometimes you're going to have this where cavalry don't get any with Marth. Or you'll have like something interesting where mystical units, they deal damage based on magic with Lodestar Rush instead of their strength, which is actually really cool. Coverts, they have an extra attack that poisons the foe, which really is only useful on, say, an archer and not so much a thief. Backups get +1 attack with Lodestar Rush instead of +2 that the dragons get. And so on and so forth. There's plenty of other ones to look at, especially as you start getting more interested with other unit types. And there's tons and tons of interactions you can get between different rings and different types. So always be looking at this. This stuff is really important to consider. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for unit typing. I get a lot of questions about it while I stream, so I just wanted to go over this stuff really quickly with you guys just to make sure you understood what they do, because they are all very unique and very, for the most part, they all have very interesting qualities about them that you should be taking advantage of. Again, the ones that don't, like cavalry and flyer don't have like a ton of unique stuff going for them outside of like extra movement, but things like key adept, backup, and covert all have really powerful effects that you should be taking advantage of at all times. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please comment your thoughts on this topic, and also what do you guys want guides on? What do you have questions about? I'd love to make stuff that is specifically tailored for you, my audience. So what do you guys want to know about? And I will study it and come back to you. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time, friends.